Hey, it's Rob, and welcome to Axel's Garage. We're in the Axel's editing room right now, and we're making some videos. But it has been a crazy week this week. Axel's Garage hit 1,000 subscribers, and when we hit that 1,000, we launched Axel's Kitchen, our new channel. And we're going to do weekly uploads on Axel's Kitchen while we keep doing Axel's Garage as much as we can. And you'll find a link to Axel's Kitchen on the YouTube page for Axel's Garage. So click on that link, subscribe to Axel's Kitchen. You'll love it. The foodies will love it. Guys that like to cook will love it. Gals that like to cook, send me your recipes. We'll cook them too. It's going to be a lot of fun over at Axel's Kitchen. But here at Axel's Garage this past week, not only did we hit 1,000 subs, but we started to get some great interaction from some of the Axel's Garage fans. A couple guys called, a couple guys texted, and one guy reached out and needed some help on his Jeep, and we took a ride over, did a video 2 videos ago. It's a week ago tomorrow that we did that job, and we went over and we helped that guy out. That was Nick. Nick's got an awesome TJ, and you see it in the video, and we got him on the road again, and we're going to do some more videos in the future with Nick. But tonight even, I was at the Apple store, and we ran into another one of our fans at the Apple store, and he came over and introduced himself, and that was a lot of fun too. So we're having a great time here at Axel's Garage. Things are working well for us, and while we were doing some editing, we found an old video that we never edited and made a video for him. We did a water pump on the Big Dummies K5 Blazer, and I put that together tonight, and we're going to upload that. So I hope you enjoy it. It's a great video. You can tell it's a little old because I'm wearing short sleeves and it was the summertime. But enjoy the video. See you next time. Hey, it's Rob. Welcome to Axel's Garage. We're back out here with Big Dummies K5 Blazer. You know, it seems like every time we get it running good and everything's good, something happens. And recently, those used dry rotted tires that we got for them was so badly dry rotted that they only lasted maybe 4 or 5 weeks, and wound up having to just go for a new set of tires. So that's what we did. But when we were looking at it and going to help him out when he actually had one go flat on him, we realized that the water pump was just groaning away, similar to how it was on one of the TJs we've been working on. And you could really hear it groaning. And before things got really bad, we said, you know what, let's put a water pump in it. So we got a nice day today. We're going to do a water pump. It's a small block Chevy, real basic, real easy, but something that people usually want to see. So this is a basic Chevy 350 water pump. You know, first, the normal Chevy, nothing fancy, nothing LS, just a water pump. The only difference between this and like an old school one that you would have seen in the 60s or 70s is this is a serpentine belt setup, so there's a reverse rotation. So the first thing we're going to do is drain the coolant out. Usually use the petcock where you can pull the lower hose, drain all that coolant out. Then you want to get your fan shroud off, and that's what we're up to now. And I'm going to move the camera. We're going to get that fan shroud off, which requires just getting that upper hose out of the way. Pull that fan shroud off. Got to get the fan off with the shroud, just like we did in the Jeep episode as well, because there's no room to slide that fan out. And then we'll be able to dip right into the water pump. So let me move the camera. Right, so what we want to do is get this shroud out so that we could have clear and open access to the water pump. Problem is, this hose is in the way. It doesn't need to come all the way off. Fluid's already drained out. So what we're just going to do is spin, loosen up this clamp. Shouldn't be too hard to come off because this hose has only been on for a few months. But it is a little stiff on the neck. I usually try to break it by hand if I can, and I could. So once you break it by hand like that, right, you're just going to take it off and flap it up and out of the way. Keep it up high so that you're not spilling coolant all over. Okay, now the shroud appears to be only bolted in with top bolts. Doesn't seem like there's any bolts on the bottom. It fits into a groove in the bottom. But before we do that, we won't be able to pull this shroud out when we loosen the bolts up because we got the fan in the way. So what we're going to have to do is unbolt that fan. So we'll leave our belt connected, which is going to hold back the pulley, and we're going to unbolt that fan, which has a fan clutch on it, and we're going to lay it inside the shroud so we can pull it all out together. And when we put it back together, that's the easiest way it's going to go back in together. The shroud does not have to come out, but you're reaching all around it. So it would saves a ton of time if you take that shroud out. The easiest way is to get that shroud out. This way you got clear access to the front of the engine, the gasket sealing nice and everything like that. Okay, what you're gonna do is you're gonna reach in here. It's a lot easier if you're standing on a step stool or milk crate and you got 4 nuts where the fan attaches to the fan pulley. And you're gonna crack those nuts loose. They are 13 millimeter, a ½ inch. Both fit. The ½ inch is feels a little tight. The 13 millimeter actually feels better on it. All right, crack them loose, and then you should be able to take them off by hand. And then you could slip the fan off of the pulley and just lay it gently in the shroud. Be careful not to let that fan smash into the radiator. You don't want to bang your radiator. Alright, so as you get that 4th nut off, just twist the fan a little bit, and it comes right off. I don't know if we're going to be able to get it out. Oh, look at that. There's enough room, it all comes right out. Just set that fan down on the side. These bolts right here, I'm not sure if they're the original ones or not. The shroud's a little cracked. They might not be the original ones. Looks like they stacked some washers on it to hold the shroud. Either way, it's a 3/8 head on the bolt. I don't believe, from my memory from many years ago, that there are any others holding this shroud in. So you hit it forward, and it should come out, and it's not. So maybe there are bolts in the bottom. All right, so after crawling down there and looking, and not depending on my old-timers menu, there are 2 bolts, again 3/8, right in the middle, about right here on the bottom of the shroud. You get them from underneath, and they hold the bottom of the shroud in. So with those 2 bolts out, the whole shroud will lift right out. And you can place that out of the way. Once you got your shroud out, now you have clear access to the front of the engine. This is where the water pump, where the fan was bolted to. It's your water pump pulley, and your water pump is right behind it. Now we're going to need to get this belt off. Right, this is a SERP belt system with an automatic tensioner, which is right here. It's got an idler over here. Okay, and how we take this off is just by putting a socket on it right here on a breaker bar, and just moving it in one direction or the other to take the tension off the belt, and you can slip it off one of the pulleys. So real simple on this one. Right, we have a 5/8 socket on a breaker bar. Now if we go righty-tighty, right, it brings this farther into the belt, putting more tension on it. So we want to go lefty-loosey. Takes that tension right off the belt. And then we can let it go all the way back. And we can take this breaker bar, the 5/8 socket, put it right up top over here because we're going to need it when we put the belt back on. Alright, just remember, before you take that belt off all the way, if there's a diagram on your cowl or under your hood or on your radiator support for the belt routing, you know, take note of it, make sure that you understand where the belt goes. If not, take a photo so that you know where to put the belt back. It can be confusing putting these belts back. Doesn't seem like it would be, but it can be. Alright, this belt's pretty old, dry and brittle. You can see cracks in it. I don't know if it's going to come up on camera, but there's cracks going through the belt. It's dry. You can feel it. It's dry and brittle. We ordered a new belt along with the water pump. Alright, your water pump pulley wiggles right off the front. Put that to the side. Alright, here's your water pump. You could spin this, and you hear that growl. Well, when the engine's running and there's tension on this, hear that play? That's play in the front shaft. That bearing wore out. It's leaking a little bit of antifreeze out of there, and it's just completely worn out, which is causing a lot of drag, number one, because it's not spinning nice, and it's just letting you know this water pump is on its way out. Now that this water pump is ready to come out, the only other thing connected to it on these small block Chevys is the lower hose. The water pump actually, the lower hose goes to the water pump itself. So we're going to disconnect that lower hose, and then there's 4 bolts, and that water pump comes right out. Alright, so we're going to come in. Loosen the clamp for that lower hose. And you're going to lose some fluid here. You normally will. Remember, this hose is going to be full, so just tuck it up and out of the way so you're not making a mess and it's still upright. Okay, and now we have 4. Now, being that this vehicle is an 89, they could have gone to metric at some point. I'm going to guess they're 9/16, so I'm going to go with that first. And they are 9/16. There's one right above and below each of the water jackets. Alright, and as you can see, alright, the bolts are all the same length, so on this application, it doesn't really matter if you mix them up, they're all the same bolts. Just check your threads, make sure they're decent, maybe hit them with a little wire brush, clean them up. We're going to put some lube on them on the way back in, right? Because we want to put some lube on it to be courteous for the next guy that might have to take them out, because that next guy just may be you. Alright, so now as you can see where the water pump once sat, alright, these are the 2 water jackets. There's one on either side. You got one right here, and you got one across from it on either side of the timing cover. Alright, this is where the gaskets go. So what we're going to want to do is we're going to scrape and clean your 2 gasket surfaces, dry everything up, and then we'll prepare our new pump off-camera installation. All right, so when they go into the pump side, a little bit of 3-in-1 oil just to help them go in. You put them in hand tight, and on the threads that are going to go eventually into the fan, I put just a dab of white grease on them, and that's just a courtesy so they don't rust up. Again, white grease on the water pump bolts, and a thin layer of silicone. Swipe with your finger on both sides of the gaskets, and you drop a bolt as you let it out. Slot it in place. And start a bolt on each side by hand. Once you got them started, just spin them in and seat them before we go and torque them down. Alright, then once they're seated, I like to come in with a torque wrench. Torque spec is 30 foot-pounds, so what I'll do is I'll bring it to 20, then I'll cross, get this one over here, $20, $20, $20, then I'll up it to 30 and finish it off. Torquing it down really isn't a critical thing on a water pump. I like to do it when you have the tools available and when you have the specs available. It makes for a much neater, cleaner job and hopefully less chance of leaks. You could always snug them down by hand. That's usually what I did for years, but now with a smartphone, it's real easy to find out the torque spec and do it the right way. So now we're on the home stretch. We're going to take the lower hose, put that back on, and we can start putting everything back on the same way we took it off. After our lower hose is on, water pump pulley. All right, make sure you seat that all the way back because we're going to put our belt on with a loose pulley. That's the easiest way to do it at this point. All right, with our new belt, we're going to open it up and we're going to route it. Same way the old one was routed. All right, when we get to this point, tool on. Bring that up, slip it right under the tool. And your belt is good to go. Continuing the reversal of the process. Slide your fan shroud back in. Alright, leave it loose up top because you're going to go down, you're going to put those bolts that we forgot were there to start with. We're going to put them back in. Again, a little white lube on those bolts just to make it easier to come out for the next one. Once that fan slides down in, I reach in and start each one of the bolts. Once the fan's good, you take the upper hose, put that back on. We'll get our tools. Out of the way, spare parts, the old belt. I'll usually hang on to an old belt if I don't already have one, just so that if one breaks, say this belt happens to break off hours where you can't buy one, you know, this belt was just old and brittle, but it still works, so it'll work again. I'll stick it up on my shelf or in my box of Blazer parts where we have some spare parts. We're going to take Universal Green, because that's all I'm using now is Universal Green, is where you can super anything up, mix some different kinds of antifreeze. So Universal Green concentrate, I'm going to dilute it 50% with water, and that's what we're going to fill it up with. But remember, please remember, because I've done this myself, I've made this mistake, tighten the drain cock. That's right, I said drain cock. It's not a drain plug, it's a drain cock. They call it a drain cock. They've always called it a drain cock, but for the last 8 years, we haven't been allowed to call that a drain cock because guys with cocks don't know what bathrooms to use. So, tighten the drain cock. Now the drain cock is tight. That's right, I said drain cock. It's tight. Coolant time. Or up here in the north. Alright, so hose the engine compartment down, got all the antifreeze that we spilled, and when we were draining it, when we were taking the hoses off, and when we were refilling it, got all that off, hosed it down really good, so that now, after it dries, we can determine if there's a leak or not, because if we see green, we know it's leaking. Right now, it's got drips and stuff, but that's just from the water we hosed off. But that's it, pretty easy, straightforward. Water pump on a small block Chevy. Like I said, this water pump, the only difference between this one and an older one is it's a reverse rotation because of the serpentine belt system. But that's it. This time from Axel's Garage. I hope you enjoyed the episode. If you did, please hit that thumbs up and give us a like. And if you enjoy what we're doing here at Axel's Garage on our channel, please subscribe. Thanks for watching.